What's up, y'all? Still good morning. Good morning on my end. What is today? Episode 5? I feel like I've been in this 40-day devotional portal for far more than 40 days, but we're on day 5. So much is coming up for me. I'm really seeing the potency of this time and what it means. Yesterday I had my men's group call, which is 2 hours, and then I have this other men's group where I get these 6 brothers I've been meeting with. The first year was monthly. We're doing bi-monthly the second year, but for a year and a half straight, we've been meeting together. So yesterday was 5.5 hours of men's work. And I really got to dive in and explore why I'm doing this, why this is alive. And a lot of this is about a reclamation of a part of me that I lost when I left my old life, left the world of finance, this hustler in me that could grind and put my head down and just conquer, accomplish. And I demonize that part of me. So it feels good that he's coming back online and dropping all these bad habits, the cannabis, the TV, the distractions, the bad food, all of it. Yeah, feels good. I can already feel how powerful and potent this experiment, not even experiment, this devotional process that I'm allowing myself to be in. Anyway, here we are. Episode 5 of Contemplations with Austin West. Good to be here with you all. Appreciate all your comments and reflections and support so much. Before going into this, and even yesterday, I posted something on social media. It's like I still hear my stories. Who's going to like it? Who's going to watch? Are they going to judge? I noticed the other day I lost 5 followers, and these stories started spinning oh no, is it going to... It's so wild what the mind and ego does. This fear we create for no reason. No reason. All in this deep primordial wound and fear of being abandoned and left by our tribe. And as I have spoken to and will continue to speak to, the process isn't to expect these to go away. It's just how can we show up inside of it? Can we continue to show up when these stories are alive? Can we continue to show up when we doubt, when the self-worth is low in those periods and moments? So yeah, appreciate everybody's support. It's been really beautiful to receive all these messages and DMs and texts about how much you've enjoyed this. So I will keep going, and far beyond 40 days. This isn't going to stop. I have enjoyed this so much because I've always felt so limited by the algorithms. I talked about this last episode, I think. I meant for long form discussion. I meant for long form exploration of thought. And every time I do one of these, I feel it opening up more and more. So good to be here with you all. This episode is brought to you by Entheos Holistics. Our mission in this life is to help people reconnect to their mind, body, soul, with their awareness, emotions, and heart, because I believe all sickness and suffering is rooted in spiritual disconnection from the self. And brought to you by the Colosseum, the men's work. We have 3 men's group calls a month, which are free. We do quarterly retreats, active group chat, and a space for men to show up and support each other. Our mission inside of the Colosseum is to scale brotherhood and belonging for all men. So if you are sick or suffering and looking for a different way, try microdosing. And if you are a brother that is alone on this journey and path of life, come and join us. So today's episode is submitted by Agnes. Thank you, Agnes, for your submission. I'm going to switch screens. Hopefully it doesn't stop my recording. But the topic is monogamy versus poly relationships, Peter Pan syndrome, propaganda dividing households, and how to explain it all to your kids. This feels appropriate, and of course it dropped in because I just got off a call with a gentleman where we talked about the relationship a lot. His relationship with his wife and where they are, and I went into a lot of these topics, so it feels alive. Let's start with the monogamy versus poly thing. Yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to be I can already feel my heart palpitating about the honesty that I will bring to this conversation about my own perspective, my own life, my own path, how I see things unfolding for me. But let's get really general for it for a second. So one of the thoughts and beliefs I have around polyamory is it is the it's actually the antithesis of what, and I'm not going to speak for all of it in a whole, just conversations that I've had around this dynamic and relationship. And I want to emphasize that none of this is right or wrong. None of it. And at the end of the day, that anybody who casts judgment on somebody's choice hasn't come to the full belief system within themselves. Again, judgment is mercilessly playing out somebody else or using somebody else to play out our own model of self. And so anytime I judge someone else's decisions and choices, I'm not actually fully in line in a belief with my own decisions and choices, which means that there's something there for me to look at. And so if anything about this topic triggers you, then look at the perspective within yourself that you might not be living in full sovereignty and freedom of what you actually desire, because we've been taught to deny our desires for most of our life. And when we deny our desire, the desire gets pushed in the shadow, and anything in the shadow manifests in a shadowy way, which is why desire is corrupted, because we've been taught to deny it. We've been taught to put it in a box. We've been programmed that you have to be this, you can only do that, you can only want that. Fuck all that noise. And the thing about desire too, where it becomes shadowy as well, is because we have a desire doesn't mean we need to act on it. A desire is meant to bring us towards what we are here to learn about ourselves. So you do not have to act on a desire to learn from it. It's about owning desire. It's about bringing desire into the light. And so nothing I say today is meant to be cast in the perspective of shame, guilt, judgment, none of it. It's my own perspectives of my life, and it's not going to be in the box that I think you think I might be in. And I could be wrong. None of this is meant to be cast as a general assumption of everybody in these different realms. So, I don't know. Maybe that's enough precursor for you. My perspective of poly, and from what I've received from some of my friends, is they paint it in the guise of, I'm so full of love that I want to share all of that love with so many people. And so I'm free inside of myself, inside of my heart, inside of my sexuality. And my perspective of what that is you're actually denying what it means to be truly intimate with somebody. Because the depth of intimacy that like scrapes every edge of the heart to take you into the deepest levels of vulnerability, of intimacy, of being exposed. You cannot reach that depths with multiple people because you're spreading. Let's think about this from an energetic and a soul standpoint. If my energy, my intention, my attention, my frequency, my sexual energy, if all of that is spread from one person to a multitude of people, I'm literally fractalizing everything it is to be within my individual self. And if I'm fractalizing all of those different energies and potencies and intentions and attentions, if that's all fractaled between many people, how is it possible that I can go to the ultimate depths that are available to me in this life? In my opinion, that's not possible. And so I believe that poly, in an ironic way, is actually the absolution of the intimacy that a lot of people are seeking and hoping to find within the polyamorous community and containers. And it depends on what you're looking for. If people are choosing the poly pathway to free themselves of the shame and guilt and judging narratives around their sexuality, if that is specifically the goal, then that might be the perfect thing for them. So this is why this topic, it's not black and white. It is very determined by like, what is your intention? What are you seeking in making these decisions and having a multitude of partners and sharing your heart in multiple places? And that's ultimately what it comes down to. And so I'm speaking to this specifically from the perspective of what it means to be in a radical level of devotion, intimacy, and commitment with an individual. And from that perspective only, not about healing and sexuality and relational dynamics, that's not what's on the table for me inside this conversation. It's about intimacy. It's about that vulnerability. It's about, this is the prayer. I have this prayer of remembering her. I know I've talked about it before. Part of this prayer is like, I'm praying for a love that is so devotional, so intimate, so committed, so raw, so vulnerable, and so exposing that it terrifies me, because there's so much excitement in that for me. And I believe that depth to find God inside of a relationship is found by navigating that with one individual. And we can call that monogamy if we want. But just to recap, I believe polyamory is the aversion of deep intimacy. And I believe that just relationships in general are the pathway to everything we want in this life. Literally, everything that we want in this life can be found through intimate relationship. In every way. God, abundance, freedom, joy, pleasure, bliss, eroticism, purpose, passion, happiness, you name it. Romantic relationship is the pathway to everything that you want in this life, in my opinion. I feel like I just need a, in my opinion, disclaimer at the beginning of every episode, because it's like I'm not claiming what I believe is right. You will never hear me say that. And if you do, please call me out. You will never, and if you do, please call me out, hear me say that you need to or you should do something. Please call me out if I do. I need to emphasize that. Like, I want to stand by my teachings. I want to stand in the integrity of my perspective. And so if I speak something that is not in alignment to what I teach, please let me know. It helps me bring myself deeper into my own integrity and alignment. And my perspective is true inside of that for myself, that romantic relationship is the pathway to everything I desire in this life. And let's talk about romantic relationship in the perspective of, parental dynamics. We talk about that we're dating our parents. The wounds that we have inside of the relationship to our parents are exactly what we're going to attract in our friendships and our relationships. And so any of the wounding I have with my mother, I'm going to attract that inside of a romantic partner with the woman that I call in. Because relationships are catalysts for our freedom. They're meant to help us become the most free, sovereign, and powerful versions of self. That's what devotion to an individual is. We're meant to trigger each other. And we have these programs, one of the things is like, what are the propaganda around divisions of households? We have these programs in society that says we're not supposed to fight. That means it's an unhealthy relationship. No. It's how we fight. It's how we navigate the difficulties in these moments. You are meant to trigger each other in relationship. And maybe just letting that be okay and normal dissolves half the battle of getting triggered inside a relationship. Because what a trigger is it's showing us where we are not free. And so when I get triggered by my partner in relationship, she is just reflecting to me a part of myself that I have not integrated. And so I'm being reflected a part where I am not free, which is the most benevolent thing this woman can do for me. And so part of my prayer of remembering her, and I've had a lot of requests to read it, and once this woman comes into my life, I will make it public. But until this woman comes into my life, no one is going to hear that prayer, except Tyler and Chris Hager. I read it in a ceremony we sat in with mushrooms. Shout out to the bros. This is bro accessible, but I don't want the feminine energy tainting the prayer until I find her. Part of this prayer is one of the sections. Maybe I'll just read one part of this section because that feels appropriate, because this is really about what I'm bringing up right now. We embody the knowing that nothing either of us speak, experience, or feel has anything to do with the other person. Rather, we know our reflections are the direct path to our individual freedom. Our truth is the vessel for us to become the most free, sovereign, and powerful versions of self together. Her triggers are not because of me, just as my triggers are not because of her, but show themselves so we can become free of them through devotional union. It's a very small part of that section about communication, my prayer for how we communicate, how we navigate conflict. And so if we can come into relationship with agreements, hey, you take full ownership and responsibility for your triggers. Nothing I ever do, say, or show up and experience has anything to do with your triggers. And I take full ownership and responsibility of my triggers. Nothing you do, say, or experience ever has anything to do with my triggers. If we can take ownership and responsibility for ourselves inside of that and walk inside of truth, because truth is the pathway to freedom, we can literally help each other absolve all things. Now, this is where it gets complicated because people are like, well, where's the other person's responsibility and stuff? At the end of the day, guys, anything I get triggered at, I don't care who triggers it. It is not on them. In me wanting to put it on them, I'm becoming victim. And if you're victim, the conversation can stop right here. Like, you probably aren't going to like my teachings. Everything I teach, everything I do, everything I offer is I want people to come sovereign and free through radical responsibility and ownership for all things in your life, to not give away your power to anything or anyone outside of yourself, because the second you do, you're a victim to that thing. So inside of a relationship, if my woman gets triggered, do I have a responsibility of how I show up in the face of that? Yes. In my integrity, in my intention, in my softness, in my safety, in my ability to hold space. But I'm not responsible for the trigger. And I can go deeper on that if you guys have questions, but it's a very clear delineation. So if people in relationship take full ownership for their experience and speak to that, hey, I'm noticing that what you said is activating a part of me and I'm really triggered right now. Can we explore this? That's way different than projecting our trigger on our partner as if it's their fault. And that right there is why I believe monogamy can be so powerful, is you get to go all the way in with one person to free each other of all things that keep us stuck by not placing the blame on that person and actually using them to bring all of the freedom that you seek in this life. That's so beautiful. That's the best. And that's at least what I pray for myself. Now, inside of that, I think monogamy has become very boxed. And this is why a lot of people, I talk about the pendulums. It's like when we're in one pendulum, we start to realize how captured that pendulum has become. We swing to the radical other side of it as almost a rebellion to everything that we were taught, sold, and programmed into us. And I think this is where poly came from, is like, between religious context and programming, governments. I mean, you still have cultures around the world where women are essentially sold into marriage for cows and goats. Like, that shit still happens today. Because that has been so corrupted, the swing to the other side of that is the polyamory space. And inside monogamy, I don't necessarily believe, this is the part that's going to be a little vulnerable. I'm never talking about this too publicly. But fuck it, this is what I believe, what I want for myself. This is my prayer. And so speaking to this publicly is announcing to the universe that I'm in ownership of what I want, what my desires are. Part of where I don't fully believe in the frame of how monogamy works today is the capture of what it means to be in relationship sexually inside of there. Now, what I mean by that is, do I desire to be with one woman for life? Yeah. Especially knowing I'll probably live to 150 years old, at least, with all the technology and the way things are going. I'm 37 now. I have a profound, strong knowing that I imagine I'm going to meet this woman, let's say, by 40. I'll give myself a little leeway. Hopefully it's sooner. Praying for it to be sooner. And I trust God. So it's 110 years. I would love, more than anything, to spend 110 years with the same woman. I am praying for that. I will devote and commit to that vision, wholly and fully. I'm here for it. And I do believe in freedom to play inside of that commitment, devotion, and that level of intimacy in relationship. Inside of that freedom to play, sexually, I'm talking about, I also have no desire for that to be outside of the container. And this is where I believe the line gets blurred between monogamy, where it's like, only this, only that forever. And monogamy is like, only freedom and all this forever. It's like, I believe that there's some sort of hybrid world where both can exist. And, I talked on my last episode too, like I have so much unwinding and programming and shame and guilt around my sexuality and the freedom and desire and the ownership. There's so much there for me. This is, I'm sure I'll do a whole episode on church and religion and might activate and trigger a lot of people, but I'm also here for those conversations. There's so much to that. And so it's honoring the sacredness of our sexuality, and honoring the sacredness of the freedom within intention of our sexuality, within the devotion of deep, profound, intimate, vulnerable love, and the commitment that comes with that choosing of one person to walk this life with. And so a vision I do have for myself in relationship is that me and this woman have committed to the next 100 years together. We raise a family. We have grandkids on top of Yeah, it'd be kind of wild to have like multiple generations because we're going to live so longer. That's a whole separate thing. But like I'll have great grandkids while I'm still alive. That's cool. And having this ability to have enough freedom inside the relationship where both of us can speak to what it is that we desire and then have the level of devotion and discipline to explore that together. Like my vision and my hope and what I believe is so potent within monogamy. And I don't even know if we'd call it this. It's like, I don't even know what the word for that would be, but to have enough freedom to speak the truth. Truth is the pathway to freedom. Truth is the pathway to making a relationship last. Truth is the pathway to allowing somebody to live their most fulfilled, highest version, most sovereign version of themselves. And so if I'm in relationship, when I am in relationship with a woman, and she might have a desire of something like that, and if that is spoken in truth with the opportunity for us to explore that together, I'm here for all of it. I don't even need to name what that is. And this is where I think so many relationships go wrong. We have confined ourselves to these rigid rules that somebody else created that are not in alignment to how you want to live. Let me free somebody that might listen to this. No one else's perspective can dictate your life. You get to choose if their perspective does. No one else's paradigm. No one else's programming. None of that shit. And so if you want to live in the box that somebody else created, just acknowledge that you are not living in the freedom and allowing yourself to fully believe what you desire and want in this life. And so that is my prayer. That is my perspective of what it means to be in devotional relationship. Is can we meet in the radical levels of truth, hold each other in it, commit to being in it together, and navigate whatever comes up. And whatever happens inside of that, I'm here to explore. Because doing any of that, exploring the fullness of this experience of life with another individual, is what turns me on about being in a devotional relationship for the rest of my life. I think that covered the difference between poly and monogamy. I don't know. Let me know if it didn't. I'll do another episode. And just to touch on, what was it, Peter Pan syndrome and propaganda dividing households. I mean, propaganda dividing households, it's again, going back to how I started this, like a relationship is the most powerful containers for our growth, evolution, expansion, anything that we want in this life. And so for in a society that is built on hierarchy, power over, how do they control power over? By keeping us separated, by keeping us divided. By separating households, so all of our trauma of that separation that we weren't taught how to navigate through gets then dumped on the kids for them to perpetuate that trauma in future generations as well. And so we stay separated, we stay fighting, the masculine and the feminine dynamics are so broken apart that these, to say it as purely as I want to, these fuckheads, these politicians, these corrupted corporate officials, all of these people that want to maintain power over, to keep us small, to keep us limited, they thrive off of our disconnection. Disconnection of men from men, women from women, women from men, disconnection from relationship, from nuclear families, from father to kids, from mother to kids, from father and mother separated to keep the mother in survival so that she's not in her actual feminine and nurturing, so she can't take care of the kids, so the kids grow up to be hard and not emotional. There's a lot to it. But simplified, the reason that we are propagandized into this separation is it allows them to stay in power. And we see what a world looks like when they're in power. Pedophilia running amok. Like, please, let's stop turning a blind eye to this. I believe probably 70% of our politicians are pedophiles. That's a pretty radical belief. We have the Epstein files to prove it. It's just a matter if we choose to believe that. I believe most authorities are corrupted. Most all. We have evidence of it. We just don't want to look at it. And they thrive off of that when we're fighting each other, when we're separate from each other, where we're not anchoring into the power and the potency of love. What it means to be in relationship. And so Peter Pan syndrome, I'll just speak from a guy's perspective, it's boyishness. It's men that are still wounded and playing out their wounds of the mother, projecting that onto women, living in the sleeping around culture and not wanting to look at the parts of themselves that are still living out traumatized boyishness, not taking responsibility and ownership for their lives, and that don't want to settle down. And so it's easier for me to go woman to woman to woman to woman to woman and never settle down because there's no intimacy in that. There's no difficulty in that. There's no truth in that. There's no responsibility in that. There's no ownership inside of that. And I lived that for 2 decades. So I know it very, very well. Very well. I know the Peter Pan syndrome. Anybody that lives in San Diego knows Peter Pan syndrome. They say the whole dating culture is just full of Peter Pan syndrome. And it's the denial of intimacy. This brings us right back to the beginning. I go person to person to person to person because I'm afraid to be intimate inside of those because I don't even know myself. I know it's not fulfilling. I lived that life. I know many of my brothers have lived the life. It's not fulfilling. And so often when I was living that Peter Pan life, I would be telling stories as if I was proud. And as I was telling the story, I'm like, I don't even like this shit, dude. You know, there's a reason why after this last breakup, I have gone into 300 plus days of retention. It's like I have no desire of sharing the sacredness of sexual energy outside of the container of devotion anymore. I'm starting to understand what a lot of these spiritual and religious texts were saying about the sacredness and potency of this energy. I don't agree with how it's taught, but I agree with the frequency in which the message is being delivered. Yeah, those are my thoughts. To some, too long didn't listen. Relationships are the most powerful catalyst to growth, evolution, and change in this life. They are the most powerful pathway to freedom, sovereignty, evolution, abundance, joy, peace, bliss, pleasure, all of it. Which is why there's such a large attempt of ripping us away from that power and potency. And I don't think trying to talk about the subject in a divisive monogamy standpoint, I think it's a little bit more complex and deep than that. I think the middle ground is where the freedom lies, as it often does. Paradox. I don't have to choose. Multiple things get to be true at the same time. And where I find the paradox, I find freedom. Thank you, Agnes, for the question. Thank you all for listening. It looks like I'm going to start making these less than 30-minute videos instead of 20 because, yeah, here we are, 28 minutes. We'll cut it here. Appreciate y'all listening. Like, share, subscribe, all the things. Your comments mean so much. Helps me spread the message because I do not want to play the algorithm game. I want to be authentic in my message. I don't want to be triggering. I don't want to be baiting all these ways that the algorithms thrive off of. So your likes, your comments, your reflections, your shares, telling people about it really, really matter to me. I appreciate you all so much. I love you all so much. Thank you for being here. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow for our next episode. Stay blessed, y'all.